Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk Careers. On today's episode, we have the Dean of Undergraduate Studies at Conestoga College, Mona Nouroozifar. In this conversation, we discuss work-life balance and whether or not it actually exists. We also discuss childhood career goals. Can you actually accomplish what you set out to do or what you dream of when you're a child? And lastly, we'll discuss steps to achieving success. Should we place timelines on them, yay or nay? I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello and welcome, Mona. How are you doing today?
Great. Thank you so much. It's nice to reconnect with you.
Absolutely. So we're going to have a quick conversation, talking a little bit about your career, your professional development, and how you got to where you are today. So let's get started with you saying your name, of course, but we like to introduce ourselves James Bond type style. So you're going to say your first name, pause, and then your last name, first name again. Okay. So my name is Claudia Mellad, Claudia. Okay, so go ahead, Mona.
Mona Nouroozifar, Mona.
Nice to see you again, Mona.
Thank you.
So Mona and I have a little bit of a history. We used to work together at a previous institution. So let's just get started right into it.
Sounds good.
Can you tell me what was your first paid job, either as a young person or upon graduation?
I think the very first paid job was when I was 16, newcomer to Canada. And believe it or not, it was at the souvlaki restaurant on Yonge Street. And I was the cashier, the chef, everything in that restaurant on the weekends as I was a student.
Needless to say, multitasking became your strong suit at that point. Definitely. So you mentioned you worked at a restaurant when you came to Canada. Can you tell me about your experience, I guess, coming or migrating to Canada as a young person?
I came to Canada when I was 15, and I think as a newcomer, there were challenges for sure. I had left my friends, many of my relatives, family members behind, and it was me and my mother in Canada wanting the rest of the family to migrate. So with that came its challenges that I had to get into the job market as early as possible at that age to support the family and to go to school and continue that. But I never look at it as a terrible experience. I think it built me. It got me ready to be resilient and to, get up every time, in our careers, we fall down, we get up again. And it's that perseverance that has led me to where I am today. And I'm thankful of every experience, be it good or bad in my life, that has made me who I am.
Absolutely. That's amazing. So speaking of that, what would you say in your life is the main attribute to who you are professionally today? So over the course of your life, what's happened to get you where you are now?
I always go back to a book by Malcolm Gladwell where he talks about outliers. What are the keys to the success an individual reaches? And I go back to my childhood friend from grade 1. There's this great friend that the friendship has continued over the years. And we were both, very academic in school. We were competitors essentially, but really friendly and really nice to each other as part of that friendly competition. And that individual alone, I think, has really had a significant impact on my life and how we approach life as somewhat of a competition, but friendly competition. We were never like competitors that would throw the other person down or want to be on the top pedestal. So it was that friendly competition that inspired me to really be my very best. And every aspect of my life, I try to really think of those memories and that outlier in our experience. She's very successful. She's a psychiatrist in New York. Nice. She's gone to Yale University to do her academics. So we continue to be friends and inspire each other in our careers. I think key friendships, good lessons learned from those experiences really shape us as well.
Absolutely. That's amazing. So we always teach our students about the 4-quadrant method of informational interviewing. We kind of already got into the person. So we're going to dive deeper into the person. So when you were growing up, what did you want to be?
As at the age of 12, I knew I wanted to be an industrial engineer. And that's odd for a 12-year-old to know that their discipline and what they want to get into. But I had some inspiring friends that were studying the discipline. And, they were talking about the disciplines. And as they were talking, the 12-year-old listening to it imagined herself being able to do that from the mathematics and the formulas. It just inspired me. So for me, the first decision for my undergrad was quite simple. It was made at the age of 12, and I was set to go to industrial engineering, and I did. And I absolutely loved it. The reasons I was drawn to the discipline was I loved mathematics. It would come to me naturally. And I felt that, I didn't maybe, at that time, I felt that I didn't have to try really hard for it. And maybe it came simply because it was my passion, it was my desire, and I was there. And I found it very comforting to study that discipline as my undergrad.
That's amazing. That's awesome. And now you are quite successful today, a woman with a PhD doing amazing things. Can you share your career journey with us?
I think success is relative. I never look at myself as anybody successful because, it depends on how we see each other. I see myself as a human that's striving every day to be the very best. And I think that really inspires me to be my best, to try to have those incremental pieces in my work and in my doing to help others, to really inspire others, to mentor others, and really to have satisfaction in my career. So one of the best pieces of advice I can give to anybody who's trying to go into either post-secondary school or to their careers, I say, pick something you're passionate about. If you're passionate about, the rest of it comes on its own. So the number one, I think, drive for success, if we call it success really, is to go after what you absolutely love to do. And you'll find success in that way, whatever that success means for you.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Amazing advice. Mm-hmm. What would you find most fulfilling in your current role? So what is what's your current role and what do you find most fulfilling in this role?
So I'm new to Conestoga. I'm the Dean for Undergrad Studies at the School of Business. The School of Business at Conestoga is one of the largest business schools in Canada, I would have to say now. And with that, what fulfills me most on the job is ability to help students. That's number one. We're a student-centered institution, so supporting the students in their career journey. The other piece with my level is coaching and mentorship for my staff. And these staff are from chairs to program managers to support staff that work in my portfolio. It is to help them succeed to be their very best. And the way I approach this is I never want my employee or staff to be with me for a long time. I want to see them grow. I want to see that trajectory for them to grow. So with this, I try to send them to professional development opportunities, to trainings, anything that fulfills their journey, because that's the only time that I feel as a manager, as a leader, I've done my job well, is to be able to inspire and help others grow.
Absolutely. And that support means so much to these employees so they can move on to their career trajectory. So we appreciate that. I'm not even on your team and I appreciate that. So that's amazing. What challenges would you say you've had to face during the course of your career?
Oh, many. I think during the course of my career, I've fallen many times. I've got back up. It's the story. I think no one's career path is a direct line or a straight line. We sometimes have dips in our careers. We sometimes have peaks and valleys. So for me, I like to approach it that this top never stays on top. Mm-hmm. They're downs regardless of what you do. They're different things that could happen that would be really outside our controls in our lives and in our careers as well. And it's having the ability to troubleshoot those and really finding your path again. So there have been numerous times that I've fallen down, but there have been many times I've picked things back up and persevered and worked through those challenges. So challenges are a normal part of, our lives, our careers, and we have to treat it that way.
Absolutely. It's never really a straight path
Never.
to what we want to do. There's always ebbs and flows is the best way to say that.
Earlier, I think when I was younger, in my late 20s, I had this set dream. I was working in academics back then as well. And I had set a milestone that by 35, I want to be there. But it never happens in reality. Some people may be lucky. For some, they have to work through those pieces. So an advice I always give others is never look at it or never set timelines or deadlines for yourselves because you'll be disappointed. So do small increments at the time and work through it. And I think have satisfaction that you're doing something that you absolutely love and enjoy, and the rest will come on its own.
Great advice. Things will fall into place. Absolutely. Have you ever had a mentor, and do you mentor others?
Many. So I think mentorship is a big part of my growth. I've had many bosses who've become my mentors. I've had some former bosses that continued to mentor me through the years as I was navigating some of the challenging moments in my career. So those individuals are really key in my success, to be able to rely and ask someone who's been in the similar role, who's had similar challenges, how they dealt with those issues in their careers. And I think absolutely I do mentor my staff and my colleagues. It doesn't mean that, you have to be part of an institution. Some of the folks that I mentor are people that have worked 15 years ago, some as far as 20 years ago, that we're still connected, and we connect on situations or challenges they have in career. So I think that mentorship is absolute key for both ways, for the leader to grow and for the leader to really inspire and create the next generation of leaders.
Absolutely. I would say I am one of your mentees. So you and I had met probably about 10 years ago at a different institution, and I really wanted to teach. And you were the person who got me my first teaching contract.
I don't remember this.
It was 10 years ago, 2013. And I'm now still teaching today, full-time faculty at Conestoga College. So thank you for that beautiful mentorship. Nice. I really appreciate it.
Nice. I'm glad to hear that.
So my next question for you is, how do you balance work and life?
I think balance doesn't exist. As much as we strive to get to that point and that desire, it's an ideal state. But for many of us, where we juggle, I had to juggle my studies with a full-time job, and there was a child that I was helping raise at the same time too. So I think as close as we can get to it, that we don't have burnouts, or we build those self-care pieces into our routine and into our habits, be it watching a small, movie before you go to bed. Maybe that's not such a good advice, but working out, going to the gym, creating a half hour, in a day for yourself where you can really attend to your personal needs. I think that's key. With hybrid work environments, there's a little bit more flexibility, so there's hope that it would help with some of the work-life balances that people have. And I think for the most part, employees and staff appreciate that.
Absolutely. Self-care is so important just to maintain your work and just maintain your life in general. So self-care, completely agree there. Yeah. What are your future career goals?
I love post-secondary, so I don't see myself other than working in the post-secondary. It is continuing to grow and continuing to expand, the help and support I can provide to the staff. But no set deadline. It's let life, enjoy the career, enjoy the privilege my current position allows me. And I love to work hard at it to see where I can be in the next, won't set a time limit on it, but in the next little while.
Okay, that sounds great. Awesome. And my next question for you is, how do you make career decisions?
It's complex. I would go back to times that I've had to change careers or move, and those decisions are sometimes the hardest and the most complex ones for us to navigate. As I mentioned earlier, I recently left my former institution and I'm here. And it was such an emotional journey for me, because I had built this high-performing team that was exceptional, that worked incredibly well together, and now was stepping away and coming somewhere to start fresh again. Because every time we change careers, we change institutions, places of employment, we're leaving behind something and we're almost like starting from scratch. So that was the toughest. When you have a great team, when they inspire you and you really want to pick them to the next level, And yeah, it's difficult, it's complex. But to go back to your initial question, how do you make it? I think it's a balance of looking at your priorities in life and really seeing the opportunity, if it fits well with your mission, your vision, what you have planned for yourself. Prior to coming here, I was being recruited for other institutions, but I wasn't really so keen on just another role, although some of them actually had better titles. But I wasn't necessarily interested in those because, you do part of your research to see, really to understand what the dynamics are, who are the leaders, and if you really want to be in that environment or not. So it's a complex process. It has to fit for the individual. And I think individuals have to be open to, accept that sometimes the decisions are made in a certain, I guess, parameter, and these parameters change. So I go back to my past experience at another institution where, I was hired by a dean who's incredible. And then that portfolio changed, and another leader came into that space. But I love that one year and a half that I worked with that individual. She mentored me, she coached me. It was a lovely experience. But we also have to look that these conditions change.
Yeah.
Our conditions of employment change. And it's having the ability to really critically think, critically assess the situation, and be able to make the right decision for yourself. Ultimately, we want to be happy. We want to have fulfilling careers. And that's when we make those changes and adjustments to our path.
No, great answer. So you've made quite some changes yourself. I know your background is engineering to mathematics, and now you are in the School of Business. So tell me a little bit about that trajectory and those changes along the way.
I think in terms of academics, yes, I would have to say, my first discipline is engineering. Then I went on to pursue my Master's of Business Administration. And my PhD was initially a Doctor of Business Administration, but my supervisors asked me to change to a PhD stream as a result of that. But the focus was student retention, motivation as predictors of success in post-secondary education. So it was quite closely tied to what I do. And in terms of having had different portfolios, I think the experiences have been incredible. I've worked in because of engineering, I worked in engineering. I worked in skilled trades. I worked in health disciplines. I worked in English liberal studies. I've had public safety.
Yeah.
I've had a variety of different programming mixes at different institutions that really helped hone in to show me the differences between programmings, between portfolios. And really that is a strength that I tap into, because it's almost like a bird's eye view that you've seen different programming, how they operate, and how can you bring those best practices into your current day and move things forward. So I think those are valuable experiences. And I think the reason these happened in my career, because I was always open to opportunities, opportunities that matched my skill set and interest, and then helped me learn a thing or two each time, I think, from those uniquenesses in those programs.
Such a rich, diverse background. So that's amazing. That's great. So we're going to switch gears a little bit now for our 4-quadrant method of informational interviewing. We're going to talk about the company or the industry. We've talked a little bit about the industry, but you mentioned that you were fairly new at Conestoga. So can you tell us a bit about your experience at Conestoga thus far?
It's been incredible. I think Conestoga, the last 5, maybe a little bit more years, it's gone through tremendous growth in terms of programming, in terms of onboarding of staff, resources, buildings, infrastructure that they've attached to their programming. So it really, to me, it really showed the commitment of the institution to student success. Not only the numbers have grown, but we have grown in terms of our faculty hirings across the province. Probably is one of the highest. I mentioned earlier, School of Business is the biggest School of Business in Canada, and new programming that's coming on board. I think the fast pace of the institution excited me. It showed that we're a forward institution. gonna play. I go back to our president's comments when he met with me, offense and defense.
Yeah.
He's a tennis player, as many of you know, and that analogy really stuck with me. That you have to play both ways, and the institution is where it's at because of that vision, because of that that drive and drive forward.
Absolutely. So that's great. What does company fit mean at Conestoga College?
You know what? In my career, I never tried to use the word fit. This is one that I struggle most with. We know that it exists. That's for sure. But what do we do to make the institution a welcoming place for others? I think many of my work has been in the space of equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging. How do we provide programming, resources so that every member of our community feels welcome? I think those would be the pieces that we really have to work with. Other than that, on my teams, you've been on my team before. I value diversity on my team. I never like my teams to be homogeneous, that look like me, talk like me. I like that diversity of opinion because each individual brings their own slant, their own, angle to it. And my past mathematics department was one of the most diverse in the province, not just culturally, but in terms of disciplines the individual came in. And I love to call it the strongest mathematics department in Canada. We beat some universities in that space. So
Amazing.
With that, I really want to say that diversity breeds creativity and innovation. So if companies are looking to be forward-thinking, to be innovative, they need to be diverse. That skill set, that workforce has to be diverse as our populations. You look around campuses, you look around, the greater Toronto area, we're a diverse population. So we need to be able to tap into that much better. And fit to me is not one thing that I look at.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Because diversity brings, rich value, rich experiences, different perspectives.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So diversity is key, and that's a cause near and dear to my heart as well.
We shouldn't be looking for fit, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a lot of things that companies actually look for, like, how well you're going to fit into the company culture. And it's, how are you going to make me feel welcome in this company culture?
It's the other way around, in my
Completely
opinion.
Completely agree. So since joining your team here at Conestoga College, what would you say is your favorite success story of being on the Conestoga team?
Favorite success story? It's only been 2 months, so I don't think I've hit anything like a major milestone or anything. And this was a conversation I had with my significant other this past week, and I said I haven't come up with that big thing that I like to call it my space. So I'm still new. I'm still learning the way around. There are programming mixes that I'm part of. These are some projects, some programming that the school is hoping to launch in the near distant future. And it's really looking, observing, trying to understand the institution, how things function, and being able to bring I always fall back on my engineering discipline, being able to bring efficiencies forward. What are those system pieces that I can help make more efficient as my background, and how can we run smoother in terms of our operations?
Okay.
And innovate. But I haven't come up with that idea yet. Give me a little bit more time.
Okay. I'll check back with you in a year.
Sounds good.
That's amazing. What trends do you see impacting the college or post-secondary sector?
Oh, there's so many. I think sustainability trends are a big issue in the sector. We've had provincial funding that's dwindled over the years, that has forced a new business model for institutions such as colleges and universities. I think some of the trends we'll start to see maybe in the next decade or two our domestic enrollment would grow again. We will see that come. And I think more flexibility in terms of our delivery options for the learners. When COVID hit first, we saw that there was that little bit of adjustment, but with it pushed institutions to really move ahead with online deliveries, with hybrid deliveries and different modalities. And with this, we have a great opportunity to reach learners at different stages, where they are, how they like that to receive that education. So I think from micro-credentials to other part-time programming options for career professionals who are interested in making that career move, those would be some of the pieces that we'll see more prominent in the sector.
Okay, that sounds great. And artificial intelligence is huge everywhere. From your perspective, how has AI impacted the School of Business?
I think we need to embrace it. It's something that is here. We need to learn ways to properly integrate it into our curriculum. So I'll give you an example. I was launching a mathematics camp last summer for underprivileged students. It was a free camp. And we wanted to come up with nice marketing slogans and campaigns. And, my wonderful program coordinator, she used ChatGPT.
Okay.
ChatGPT produced a marketing campaign for this. And I showed it to my boss. My boss, at the time, who was an English major, said, "This is lovely. Who came up with it?" Because of the catchy slogan, and I said ChatGPT. So it's finding ways where we can incorporate those elements into our practices and teach the students. I think some students are probably advanced users of it for wrong reasons. But if we bring authentic assessments into our curriculum and really teach them how to use it, where to use it effectively, and how to have that critical lens in terms of usage of it, I think we've done ourselves a favor in that space. It is, how will it get integrated into that, and how would it be supported?
Because we all know it definitely will be integrated, whether we want it to or not. So we have to find our best ways to work with it to ensure that the students are learning the most effective use of it. I completely agree with that. Okay. So we're going to switch gears again now. We're going to go to our last stage of the interview process to talk about next steps and or advice. So you kind of touched on it a bit, maybe expanding a bit further. What skills do you think students will need going into the next 5 to 10 years?
I think I sit on many different committees, advisory boards, and a couple of key issues that always employers ask for are great communication skills, critical thinking, systems thinking, being open to ideas. They're looking for innovators, those that think outside the box per se. So those are some of the key pieces and elements that I hear often on different advisory boards that employers are really looking in terms of the next candidates. I have to say, communication wasn't my strongest. As an engineer, I thought all you do is mathematics formulas. You don't really need to tap into that. But I learned that that's the opposite. You need to be able to, produce a good manual, technical manual, if it was, how to use this product that you designed. So communication, I think, is the foremost, but critical thinking, that ability to be able to synthesize information, analytics. I think information age, we're bombarded with big data. How do you decipher? How do you read those data points, and what do you get out of it? Those are some key skill sets that individuals would need, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And it's funny because as a career development prof, I always tell my students the universal transferable skill is communication skills. You have to know how to speak to people. You have to know how to write an email. So it's just that basic fundamental. Absolutely. Communication is key. So we're on to the last question, my signature question.
Okay.
What advice do you have for students?
I think pursue what you love.
Great.
Pursue what you love. Go after your desires. I think that's the biggest advice I give. And there have been many students over the years who contemplated which program they apply at this institution or the other. And I say, pick something you love. Pick something you're good at, because I think that's important advice too. Oftentimes parents get tutors for their children for subjects they're not very strong at. But I like to flip it around. Get a tutor for the subject they're super good at and really push them in that direction and inspire them. So the same for students. pick something you're good at. You get inspired by doing that and pursue that path.
Absolutely. Wonderful advice. Thank you so much, Mona, for coming in to meet with us today.
Pleasure.
And have this great conversation. Good to see you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
What an inspiring conversation. Thank you for listening to this episode of Let's Talk Careers. If you like this episode and want to hear more, follow us on Spotify and subscribe to us on YouTube. See you in the next one.